Hello, everyone. Really glad to be back with you guys. I just want to state this, just like you saw in a little disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. I'm just providing my own honest opinions about how I feel. And yes, I'm sticking to my guns. QNT will be the most expensive token in history. Again, that's just my own personal opinion, but it is an honest opinion. And this notion that content creators are trying to pump their own bags, really? I mean, if you want to get technical, QNT, yes, is the worst performing cryptocurrency along with Stellar and a few others. But guess what? I'm in this for the long game. And I understand that there's other tokens and coins that we need to pay attention to for this particular bull run. And guess what? I still am DCAing into some of those other projects. But guess what? I don't also want to settle for pennies when I could be settling for dollars or thousands of dollars in the future for life-changing income for QNT. Again, all this research that I provide you guys is research. So if you appreciate this, welcome to the channel. Smash that like if you haven't done so already. And again, this is actually my own honest opinion. And I'll just leave it with that, okay? So we're going to dive into this. Check it out for yourself. This is a particular update. And I want to give a shout out to this guy. He deserves a shout out. I always try to make sure I give other researchers and content creators a shout out if they have good content. So shout out to this guy, NerdyX90. Why is that? Well, you know, he quotes other ones, right? I love these other projects, Ripple XRP and some of these other ones. But what he states in regards to, you know, MCBDC, Brics equals interledger plus hyperledger on overledger. Great statement. Equals QNT RL USD equals MCBDC plus wholesale CBDC equals Internet of Value / multipolar world equals gold and silver. A lot of you guys hold gold and silver. A lot of you guys look at, you know, some of these particular assets need to be backed by something, whether it's Bitcoin, you name it. And that's where it's at, right? We've been there, done that. This is, you know, posted technically last June, but it really, really pounds it home. Listen to this. Again, stick around to the end of the outline because I want you to hear this just in case you are new and just in case this flew past your head, because we're going to connect all this. And again, there's going to be one key country we want to save for the end because it's really going to be, in my opinion, an aha moment. So listen to this. It's 2 minutes and 16 seconds. We'll come back into the outline. Again, thanks for watching. Here we go.
Themselves, tokenized assets could improve the financial system only incrementally. If tokens were to trade through existing financial pipes, they would have to rely on the same long and complex sequences of messages passed back and forth between financial institutions. And these complex sentences are the cause of many costs and delays in today's financial system. To unleash the promise of tokenization, i.e. to deliver a giant leap, we need to bring the different kinds of tokens together. Commercial bank money, central bank money, tokens on different assets. Unified ledgers are the platforms where this can happen. Once these different tokens are brought together in the same programmable platforms, new functionalities can be deployed, like smart contracts and composability. With them, sequences of transactions could be automated and seamlessly integrated. This would eliminate the need for manual interventions and redundant compliance controls, two issues that significantly delay transactions along the chain of a cross-border payment. It would also enable simultaneous instant payments and immediate and simultaneous settlement across a whole range of assets. Tokens could, in principle, contain any financial asset, but tokenized money is a core requirement. As Yuval Noah Harari, whom you will have the pleasure to listen to in this conference, said, "Money is the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised." The unified ledger system would build on the trust of the two-tier system of today's financial system. All transactions are carried in commercial bank money, but their final settlement happens in central bank money. And even greater leaps are possible. In a recent paper, Nandan Nilekani and I laid out a vision of how multiple financial ecosystems can interact with each other to form the future financial system, which we have labeled Finternet. The Finternet would empower individuals and businesses by placing them at the center of their financial lives. Unified ledgers connected to each other through application programming interfaces play a central role in this vision.
All right. Play a central role in this vision. All right. So as we go more into this outline, you'll hear a little bit more about the whole thing of the Finternet. And I realize I'm not the only person that covers it. Shout out to our brother Mind Crypto. Give him a follow if you haven't done so already. He has absolutely awesome deep dive coverage. Okay. Always give a proper shout out to kind individuals in this space that realize the maximum potential of things like QNT. That's where it's at. My crypto, a solution, always have, always will, and anybody else who covers things like QNT, you know, trying to educate people about the bigger picture, right? So we understand Quant has awesome tokenomics, but again, we're talking about the BRICS nations, right? Is there really something there? Well, I feel as though it is. Let's jump into this, and I will give you the reference here. It is WTO.org/English/RES_E. Okay. Why am I sharing this with you guys? Well, for one, I want you guys to understand some of these statements. So, standardization activities in blockchain and, of course, distributed ledger technologies. This was posted originally from Turaj Ibrahimi. He's a JPEG convener, director, audit chain, professor of EPFL. Now, while this was posted back in 2018, understand the importance of standards, understand the importance of blockchain, international trade, opportunities, challenges, and of course, all that cooperation. And while a lot of people feel as though, man, QNT is way, way down, for me personally, I consider it a blessing in disguise. Why would I want to get into QNT when it's thousands of dollars in the future? Again, not financial advice. That's just how I personally feel. But I want you to see this. Okay. So, for one, we are talking about the BRICS nations. So, before we get into that, what is the goal of all this? Well, enabling interoperability through ecosystems. What's the challenge? To anticipate technology trends and their impact on applications. Don't ever forget those applications. But what is cited here? The Quant network standard, ISO TC 307. And we know about all this stuff, right? For the most part. If you're new to it, welcome. You can learn some things. And I have a lot of deep dives for you. But let's start off with the B in Brics, Brazil. They mentioned, yes, under what? The umbrella of ISO TC 307 members. So you do see that they are basically listed here. And what's also important is understanding that there's other ones listed here. All right, so that's the B. What about R, right? Because we're talking about BRICS. Well, yes, Russia is there, Russian Federation. All right, what about, India, right? Real simple stuff. Yes, you see that. And if anything, under the umbrella of the Bank of International Settlements. Okay. All right. Sounds good, Max. What about, for example, China? Great question. China is there under SAC. Okay. And then what about, of course, South Africa? South Africa is highlighted there under SABS. Is that all I have? Am I ending the outline right there? No. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump into this next part. How many times have you heard me talk about the RLN? Well, under the UK finance on this reference screenshot of the regulated liability network, it's crucial to understand some things about discovery phase. And if anything, we're going to talk a lot about orchestration. We're going to talk about the programmability layer. And who is that integration gateway without saying who's the integration at gateway? Well, we've outlined it many times. It's the Quant network through the Overledger, right? And that's why we have standards. All right. Well, is there end users connecting at all? Yes, there's a shared ledger for central bank and commercial banks through the RLN. And again, we understand Quant's connection to some of that. So I don't want to get so much into the discovery phase because, we've been there, done that. But this last statement, the discovery phase technology focused on comparative analysis of the technical platforms that could best fit the RLN. Again, your new regulated liability network. Architecturally, after initial research, the analysis was validated by an information gathering exercise with key technology platforms. These included Corda R3, Adhara, Millicent, Quant, even Polygon Matic, Canton, Digital Asset, and some of these other ones. There was also detailed analysis on Quorum and some of these other ones. But look how it mentions Hyperledger. Again, back to that first thing I shared you. So Quant, part of the mix. If anything, the main part of the mix. As we jump into the next part of the outline, I've seen some other people share this. This has made it into an Indian newspaper. Think about this, for example. I love these examples because when we talk about mainstream adoption and so on, if you get something like this, well, it catches people's eyes. May 14th in Business Link, okay? Making of universal digital financial systems in the works by using tokens. Notice how it says tokens and notice how it says unified programmable ledgers. Finternet, back to Augustine Carson's again, seeks to connect multiple ecosystems to deliver quality financial services faster, cheaper, and securely. Now, why is this important? Well, again, back to the whole thing of the Brics nation. So, buoyed up by the success of digital public infrastructure, DPI, and I'll zoom in. What does it say? DPI in India, Nandan Nalkani teamed up with who? Augustine Carson's, again, the guy from the beginning of the video, of the Bank of International Settlements to prepare for a blueprint for a new digital global financial system, and they christened it as Finternet, which basically means financial internet. Remember how we said there's two systems? There's basically the information system, right? That's Web 2, guys. The information system was Web 2, and we're basically in a Web 2.5. Web 3 is going to be, instead of www, it's going to be WWL. Go back to some old deep dives that we've done. Real research, okay? I don't provide my opinion, I also provide research. It says this is designed to be as user-centric, universal, and unified. Again, back to the whole concept of a unified ledger. This attempts to unite the foundations of economics, finance, and commerce with technological innovation. Multiple ecosystems would be connected so as to deliver universal and unified access to high-quality financial services. At a higher level, they would like the proposed financial system asset transfer to be easy as making a phone call to anyone across the globe, irrespective of device, network, or service provider. Remember how Gilbert Verdian was talking about you can't have walled gardens, you can't have silos, we can't have Web 1, another version of Web 1, right? We're trying to innovate, we're trying to evolve this whole thing of technology. So it goes on to mention a little bit more that as much, or I should say, and much like booking a combination or renting a cab across the globe, they seek to remove friction. How many times has Gilbert Verdian mentioned things need to be frictionless and make transfer less costly, faster, instantaneous, and secure, and make the system more efficient? This is why I feel as though, Ripple XRP is going to really stand out, right? For cross-border payments and, real-time gross settlements. But again, Quant is also part of the mix because it complements ISO 222. And again, if you're new, you need to look into some of those videos because they're not time sensitive and they'll help you understand the bigger picture. It says on the face of it, the project looks ambitious, if not audacious. This is a planet scale project that is touted to touch 8 billion plus people. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sticking to my guns, and I understand there is a bigger picture. And if we can even harness just a small percent of this, QNT has to be worth a lot, has to be worth more than just a little something. In the prices that we see it right now, how tokenization works. Look at this point. Tokenization and unified programmable ledgers are the twin pillars of what? Technology architecture of the Finternet. Back to Augustine Carson's. All the financial assets, including bank deposits. Who talked about this recently, guys? Last few months, or even until late last year. It was Larry Fink of BlackRock. So, including deposits. Remember I talked about tokenized deposits? Remember how I talked about stocks, mutual funds, all kinds of securities and physical assets, lands, cars, works of art, you know, you already seen that with NFTs, would be tokenized and reside on programmable unified ledgers. I'm going to jump over to the right part of this on the page. So I want to get into this statement. It says basically there's unintended consequences of all this, right? Why is this important? Well, it says many digital ledgers and apps have been designed products and processes, to remove frictions and make borrowing easier and faster. But this has pushed many small-time borrowers to over-leverage, and the RBI raised the red flag. It is not hard to see similar unintended consequences in social media and even concentration in UPI. We need to be mindful of unintended consequences. Trust is very important. Gilbert Verdian always talks about that. It's not just about the internet of value, but it's also about the internet of trust. A well-functioning, real-time grievance and dispute resolution mechanism is a key element to inspire trust. Right, think about that mechanism. Also think about what the overledger does. So the need to mitigate ever-increasing cybersecurity threats and frauds. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, Gilbert Verdian, wow, I have another outline to get more into. But I mean, if you have ever gone, okay, guys, to his resume, I mean, this guy has been part of cybersecurity pretty much his entire life, okay, over 20 years. This needs to have governance mechanisms and laws, regulators, and supervisors need to write new rule books. Who already did that? Gilbert Verdian, the ISO TC 307, the Quant network standard that he created back, I think, 2015, conceptualized it and got it done in 2016. That's a standard, all right? If you're new and don't understand what's the big deal, why you guys always mention things about standards, understanding, again, back to my old expression, when you plug in your power cord into the wall, that, believe it or not, is a standard, okay? You try to take that cord over to Europe, they have different standards. It ain't going to plug in. How would you like to have something in Web3 that plugs everything in on the WWL, the World Wide Ledger? All right, India is mentioned here. It says a way forward. India is not new to successfully and securely operating large-scale, what, guys? Well, platforms. As a global financial regulator, the Bank of International Settlements, is a collaborator, opens up the doors several places globally. Right. India wants to be part of that. Over 100 central banks have already initiated it. Yes, we've seen that. But the point is, the combined tokenization of commercial bank money augurs well for the Finternet. Now, I will talk more about this. A big bang approach would be difficult, and it finds its own legs as experience and benefits evolve. Look for low-hanging fruits. Turf wars are sure to flare up and need to be doused. Will it basically amplify all this? Will there be macro financial theories? One may not be faulted to assume that with involvement of global regulator, bank and international settlements, these issues would receive greater attention and, of course, scrutiny. But the government may constitute, look at that term, a Finternet council with major participation of the private sector. My goodness. So I'm going to take you more into this outline. Again, it's not going to be like a 2-hour deep dive, but it's crucial for your understanding. So does Quant basically mention anything in regards to the Finternet? Yes, they do. Let's take you over to that. Boom. What do you see here? Literally from Quant Network citing the Finternet. Why is that crucial for your understanding? Well, it literally says it right there firsthand. The Bank for International Settlements concept of the Finternet and unified ledgers was a key discussion point, right? Even with the co-hosting of the Bank of Spain. All right. And what does it say? Developing DLT standards. But you already have that standard through ISO TC 307. That is so crucial for understanding. Get to the next part of the outline. More about India. I want you guys to see this. This is really, really good stuff. So this is from cxotoday.com/press release in regards to Mastercard. Posted 6 months ago, but it will make sense in regards to the outline. Mastercard, if you weren't aware of it, guys, unveiled an MDES token Connect for issuer banks, enabling tokenization via mobile and internet banking. That statement right there, if you've been studying this, you'll understand that is basically Finternet without even saying Finternet. But I'm not going to leave you guys with just that, because I get it. Some people say, well, that's kind of speculative. but man, does it get good. So as we get into this, basically speaking, what does it say? Mastercard announced the launch of MDES, Mastercard Digital Enablement Service, Token Connect in India to enable card on file and device tokens for debit and credit cards through issuer banks' mobile internet banking channels. I mean, I understand that my buddy Michael Cornwell usually only watches the live, he doesn't watch recorded, and that's okay, but he has stated for the longest time that watch out for a day and time where you will see functionality of being able to swipe your debit card or newer versions of debit card, right? And it's tied into crypto somehow, and people don't even know it. This is that definition of that, okay? And we talked about it with Stellar too, but this is a Quant outline. MDES Token Connect, consumer-centric platform that basically does what? It supports issuer-initiated tokenization. How long have we been talking about this? How long have we been studying this for at least 2 years? Aims to provide convenient and secure way for cardholders to do what? Transact online. Isn't that the whole point? Isn't that when you heard the whole thing of like, you know, cryptocurrency, you heard currency in that title, you're thinking at some point, there has to be something that will allow me to have an alternate or better way forward for paying for things, right? The story behind the unified ledger, the story behind more than cash. You know, they want a little bit more of a story. And I understand it that some people look at like, well, that's a bad thing. Understand that when it comes to Quant, you know, one of the statements that was made recently was, is this basically a mild version of, you know, decentralization? Like, it's not 100% centralized, right? Some people are saying, you know, it definitely is. And again, we could beg to differ on that, but I'm gonna get back to what we're talking about here. I like what's mentioned, okay? Because what it says here in the outline is that issuer banks can easily integrate their mobile and internet banking platforms with what? The MDES Token Connect, thereby allowing cardholders to securely transmit payment details to token requesters, including online merchants, digital wallets, and e-commerce. Again, this is the bigger picture. And again, we've been talking about some of these things. So is there any key benefits? Yes. Effortless integration. The platform offers single integration for issuers to streamline storing payment cards across token requesters. And is there seamless connectivity? Again, back to all of those particular blockchain events and things that Gilbert Verdi went to, because he talked about this. He's mentioned exactly what you see of what Mastercard is also mentioning. And that is, it allows seamless interaction with the Token Connect framework, eliminating the need for multiple proprietary APIs between issuers and token requesters, right? Because we have a platform that's going to get it all done. Now, a little bit more about India. All right, look at this for a second. You don't think this is connected? Gautam, if I pronounce that right, Agarwal is the division president of South Asia. He says Mastercard, or at least, shares the Reserve Bank of India's commitment to reinforce digital payment security through device card on-file tokenization, which is called COFT. And this Token Connect platform aims to bolster the safety of the digital transactions, allowing cardholders to create and link their tokens, of course, to a digital wallet through specific channels. But more importantly, do we have the Reserve Bank of India there? Yes. In line with commitment to improving digital payment security, the Reserve Bank of India had recently issued instructions allowing tokenization through card issuing bank channels. A little bit more about this. There is this thing about even the United States. This was 4 hours ago, guys. The United States businesses are the largest investors in India, and the United States partners or has a partnership summit to have a bridge to greater collaboration towards India's 24/7 goals. I know that sounds way out there, but again, understanding that, wow, there's something really big going on, and especially MasterCard in India, I think that's all worth sharing and definitely all worth getting into. So that's India. There's more to it than just this. I actually have the PDF, and you can go see it for yourself if you want the reference. static.developer.mastercard.com/content, okay? And it's called MDES, okay? Or you just do, Google that, and this should come up. This is an update since December 2021. Why is this important? Well, it says straight from this PDF, MDES Token Connect, Token Requester Implementation Guide. And I know what you guys are thinking. That is, Max, you got to get to the good stuff, bro. You got to get to the whole thing. Does it even mention a hint of quant? Yes. Here's the proof. Look at this for yourself. This is good stuff. It definitely does, because we know that Quant's ISO TC 307 standard is, again, the Gilbert Verdian invented standard. So I'm going to take you to this real quick. And what we see here, basically speaking, is, yes, this right here. So it says here that that integrating with Token Connect post-tokenization authentication for remote commerce programs on the selection channel to receive authentication code by consumer, the token requester initiates authentication using request authentication code. Okay. And my thing is this, okay? It's really, really interesting that in this, for the callback response, remember how we talk about messages like ISO 222? Well, with ISO 222, that's a messaging standard, and we understand that ISO TC 307 complements that. Now, on this part, it says MCC, as in Mastercard, but it consistently mentions 307. Now, that part, I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% convinced, but man, that is very, very, people say that's a stretch, but that is very, very worth paying attention to, because on that code, as we know, really interesting to consistently see C307 Mastercard Connect, all right, because we just talked about Connect. And then if anything, instead of saying TC307, it says C307, but it's consistent on all these links from different URLs and so on. So that really, really caught my eye. But the other thing I want to get into, just in case if you're the type of person you're like, well, I don't know about that. That's not enough for me. I want a little bit more. I want you guys to understand that, I think there's a heck of a lot more when it comes to this. And we're going to take you over to this, because here's another person from QNT citing some things. So the director, this is from this guy named Zeus, and I'm following him, so shout out to him. So it says, while you're busy selling your QNT to him, all right, the director at one of the biggest accounting firms in India, KPMG, is busy liking Luke Riley's post about Quant Network's transfer bridges. Think about that statement for a minute. And we'll take it back to the whole thing on Mastercard here in a bit. One of the challenges when connecting blockchains is how to transfer tokenized assets between an origin and destination chain. Isn't that what the whole thing of Mastercard with that connect, like we were talking about, was mentioning? Yes, at Quant, they have worked at many projects to create asset transfer bridges. And oh, by the way, do we forget that Gilbert Verdian has done work with Mastercard in the past, right? He's done at least about, 1 to 2 years, give or take. Don't quote me on that, but he's done work with with Mastercard in the past. Vodalink, right, which is part of the Mastercard umbrella. So there is that. You could download the article, look more into it more, but Quant's bridges are built to incorporate the latest developments in international standards, specifically the SATP Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. Now, on a statement from that guy, Siddhartha Durbha, look at his background, regulatory compliance, right? So he understands. And for him to like that, some people say, oh, that's just a big coincidence. Give me a break. These guys talk to each other, and we know that, okay? Especially when you see things like digital assets, governance, risk, and audit payments, right? It's all there if you want to take more of the deep dive instead of doing just, personal opinion fluff, okay? So let's take you over to this. Digital Pound Foundation, okay? What about the whole thing of Nokia to collaborate for offline CBDC payments on feature phones? Back to Augustine Karsten's statement. So were you aware that IDEMIA, in partnership with Airtel Payments Bank and Nokia's parent company, have this whole thing to introduce an offline CBDC, back to, Augustine Karsten's statement, application to feature phones in India? Collaboration aims to enhance the reach of offline CBDC payments, make it more accessible, convenient, yada, yada. But the point is, when you see more about it, Primary objective, and I'll highlight for you guys. A lot of you guys are driving. That's okay. Be careful. Objective of this endeavor is to enable feature phone users to transact in digital rupees and represents the first attempt, yes, you read that right, first attempt to implement CBDC payments on feature phones through an application interface. And we already have that whole thing of Mbridge, and we have that whole thing of Quant Network, Project Rosalind, Bank of International Settlements already selected Quant, Bank of England already selected Quant. So that's all there. Okay, is that it? Nope. Not it at all. As we jump further into this is good stuff as well. May 10th, 2024, back to Augustine Carstens. See how it all comes full circle. Financial services must catch up with the advances made in the communications since the advent of the internet and, of course, smartphones. What's it going to require? It's going to require taking bold action to build a seamless, interconnected network that will give all individuals and businesses full control over their financial lives. How many times has Gilbert Verdian pounded that home long before Augustine Carstens ever said it? Think about it, guys. All right, get into the second part. There has been some progress on technology to enable such new reality, as evidenced by the proliferation of mobile payment apps. But transforming financial services will require creating an entirely new system to match the advance made in communications since the advent of the internet and smartphones. Today's mobile phones are powerful computers, after all. It would be a waste not to maximize their use. Great point. But do we have a blueprint to connect it all? Yes. To this end, we have drawn our joint expertise in economics and technology to offer a blueprint for the financial architecture. Call it the Finternet, a vision of multiple financial ecosystems that will connect with one another like the internet in order to give individuals, businesses full control over their financial lives. That is the point. That is the main point of the Finternet, right? At least the statements that we provide to you guys tonight. This next part I want to jump into. Quant Network in regards to some of these assets. Why is that important? Well, look what it says. And if you want to give this to yourself, this is from the CBDC white paper, for crying out loud. You get it from the Quant Network by going to quant.network. All right. So remember how we talked about a multi-ledger token? Okay. This is why I do these things, guys. Implementing this. Okay. So you saw from Mastercard, you saw from Bank of International Settlements, heck, you even saw it from India, all talks about a multi-ledger token solution. Okay, this is how it comes full circle, guys. Quant's blockchain payments offering called multi-ledger token solution provides a proven mechanism for meeting all requirements of the CBDC described. It is possible. It is a solution which implements the IMF's International Monetary Fund, for some people that don't know that, semi-decentralized. That's the term I was looking for earlier. Model enables simple and flexible implementation of synthetic CBDC. It could also be used by banks as a more flexible type of stablecoin. This whole notion that there's not going to be any value to this and it's going to go to zero. Okay, I guess we just agree to disagree. But anyway, listen to this. In this section, we'll look at how Quant's MLTS works. In brief, funds or collateral are held in escrow. Financial institution comes in, such as central banks, yada, yada. And basically, you have the whole thing of how the tokens are issued or minted on a private DLT. Is there a mixture of this? Yes. Is there a quant model? Yes. As we get into this, you will see that there is a section that goes into detail on how it all comes together. And I won't bore you with all the technicalities, but the bottom line is that Quant has a model, and that basically speaking, that they have they have a ledger for interbank retail and wholesale payments. We know that. But this receives transaction fees in real time from financial institutions, DLTs via an API. That was the whole point of having something that's blockchain agnostic, because again, all of those banks don't necessarily want to pick only one particular or multiple particular blockchains and so on. They wanted something that would be a lot more easier, hence why it's called the overledger, something that would sit over all of those particular blockchains. As I get into this next part, you will see that even with Quant's MLTS, think about that, and all the references we talked about before, that this will allow funds to be used on any DLT, okay? And that Quant has a patent for it, many patents for multi-ledger token technology. And of course, there's more about the model, but when we get more further down into the outline, you will see that there's key elements of this outline, key elements of the MLTS, and it's basically this. There's a bank DLT infrastructure. This is where people state that, well, Quant has a lot of competition. I understand that, and I covered all that competition in the past, okay? And I'll do an update in regards to this. But guess what? When you see statements about how this mirrors the bank's balance in MLTS and holds a variety of accounts, these include customer accounts as well as bank's internal holdings, and how they settle, and how it's part of the CBDC accounts on the front end, and how this DLT infrastructure, obviously Quant's over your ledger, holds counterparty accounts, and how you also see how there's an authorization service, and it connects to what? Interbank payment messages for this MLTS system. Now, it does mention this thing that it needs authorization of a thing called PSD2. Let's take you over to that and understand why that's important. As we jump into that, before we get into PSD2 authorizations, in this PDF, it mentions specifically ISO 222. Why do I want to mention that? Because even Quant Network understands there's challenges, and to compound the issue, they must address that in order to maintain compatibility with existing systems, they have to implement a CBDC that will be in compliance, of course, with ISO 222 payments messaging standard. And as we know, ISO TC 307, the Quant Network standard, complements those particular things. How so? Through open banking and, of course, payment services, directives, and so on and so forth. So that authorization service, ISO 222, would we have enriched compliant data? Yes, it even says it right here. The signature is enriched with ISO 222 compliant data and other data, allowing sharing of data between banks. So when you see these terms and hear these terms about a flip of the switch, and people stating that, you know, that narrative of ISO 222 is so old and outdated, that is absolute nonsense. All right, I don't mean no disrespect, but that's just my own personal opinion. That's ridiculous, because guess what? We have not seen this come to full fruition because it was still being built, you guys. You know, that's where I'm at with this whole thing. Okay, so there's a difference between a retail narrative and smart money narrative. Follow where the big money is at. Yes, there's other tokens, other coins, you still make money. And I'm not saying that you can't invest in some of those things. If anything, don't lose your eye on the big prize. That's the way I'm looking at it. Will this benefit a lot of things? Yes. Housing benefit, emergency payments. Oh man, Internet of Things, machine to machine, on and on and on about the whole thing of MLTS. But you want to know something? I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty about that, but I do like this statement. Quant's MLTS is peer-to-peer in a card context. How is that? Because it allows for the connectivity, not just through the MLT layer, but also with settlements. Hence why we said, guess what? We can settle with Ripple's XRP through XRP out. We can settle a trade for XDC. And it even cites some of these other things about China. Look at that, guys. China, BSN, and they have worked, of course, with Quant. I'm going to jump into this next part because I know this is becoming quite the outline. I want to take you over to this. All right. This is from Critical Software. This is important for your understanding to not lose eye on the prize. I did talk about PSD2, but before I get into that, from this site called Critical Software, you go to criticalsoftware.com and type in ISO 222 and it should come up with this. Or you can type in PSD2. Listen to this. This whole thing of people telling you that that ship has sailed in regards to ISO 222. I don't know what research they're doing. No offense to them. God bless them. I pray for them. What does it say on the screen? ISO 222 will do what? Work alongside the payment service directive. PSD2. Yes, it says 2021, but I want you to understand we're going to connect this. Standardize the data used to implement the financial transactions. How will this improve transaction simplicity? You guys kind of know about some of this stuff, but I'm going to jump down. It says behind the scenes, I love this term, the new standard will be gradually phased in. Think about that, guys. phased in amongst PSPs. ISO 222 will mandate standardization language for online payment. And when does that mandate happen? November 2025. Okay? That's the full mandate. There's some other things coming out, I guess, earlier, but I'm more impressed with the full mandate. Okay? It says between different markets, different systems, processing language behind transactions, financial institutions, the UK, Bank of England, they're going to do what? Implement ISO 222 as part of the upgrade of real-time gross settlements, RTGS systems, facilitating transfer between, of course, banks. But what about this thing about PSD2? Right. This is some of the aha moments before we get into the last part of the outline. So what's crucial to understand is behind the scenes, a new standard will gradually be phased in among PSPs, but again, ISO 222 will be, of course, that mandate. Don't ever forget that, because again, that is crucial for your understanding. Now, taking over to the whole thing of PSD2, I signed up for this site. This is actual law. You could do it yourself. These guys are, law firms that have done research. So, I provide you guys research. This is a freaking law firm who dug deep into this back in 2020, and they have other updates as well. But it says the chain moves forward. This is from Taylor Wessling Law Group, if you will, from Germany. They wrote this a while back. Why is this crucial for your understanding? It says, looking to the future, it has been noted that the European Union urgently requires uniform regulation, and if only to avoid an internal EU regulatory patchwork. Moreover, the creation of a uniform legal framework would be within the realm of what is actually possible and already achieved, for example, with MIFID2 and, of course, PSD2. How the market, and does it say crypto? It says crypto. How the market for cryptocurrencies and crypto services in Germany will develop in the long run remains to be seen. And I have something to connect this in regards to Germany. I know we were talking a lot about Brics, but I want you to see this. In particular, whether it will have a lasting effect on the classic banking business on the one hand and the development of crypto industry on the other. Are you going to settle for pennies or are you going to settle for dollars? That's where it's at. Look at this for a second as well. More talk about the PSD2. Man, you have to see it for yourself. You have to hear it for yourself. Cybersecurity for Europe. Look at the citation if you want it. Cybersec for Europe.eu. Type in WP-content. Why is this also crucial? It says in section 2.36.2 of the BBVA takes part in an open consultation or feedback over different standards. Remember how we used to talk about standards? ISO 222, ISO TC 307. It says such as payment. Now, does it mention ISO? It does. Such as ISO standards or new regulations such as PSD2 to do what? Harmonize and agree with other industry players on common standards, guidelines, or codes of best practices. And who do we know is the orchestrator of this? Quant Network. And who do we know that will allow this to be harmonized? It's literally referenced consistently, even in the recent EBAday 2024 in Lisbon, Portugal. They mentioned not just Quant Network, but also mentioned the whole thing of quant and harmonization over and over and over. They speak the same language, guys. And it literally also mentions the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. And we know Gilbert Verdian has had over 20 plus years experience in cybersecurity, literally wrote standards, worked with the UK government, worked with the Australian government, worked with even the United States. You can look that up for yourself. It's all there. All right, getting to this next part. A little bit more from this particular PDF. Does it mention anything in regards to quant without saying quant? Yes, it does. How do we know that? I will read this whole statement to you. Norges Technics, can't read that next part, it's hard to pronounce. Universities' participation in mainly in the CEN Senelec focus group on blockchain DLT. This is a European Union-based focus group to conduct the preliminary investigations on blockchain DLT technology in the context of European deployments and standardization. The life of this group is limited to the end of this particular year, at least then. And the members have done what? They have migrated to ISO TC 307, and they decided to follow the international standardization initiatives with ISO and on national levels. And if there's a need for a European committee, it will be established, of course, later. But what does it specifically say? It was migrated to ISO TC 307, and that is the Quant network standard. So basically migrated to the overledger, guys. Let's get into the next part. All right. Remember how I mentioned EBAday 2024? Look what it says. Tokenization and digital identity will lead banking evolution. What's crucial to understand on this is that you have some of these key people also talking about some of this stuff. Talking about like CBDCs, talking about, for example, that we don't want to digitize identity. We want to make digital identity that is dynamic. Gilbert Verdian has also stated that recently in his EBAday recent interviews. This again from Finextra, and who interviewed him? It was Finextra. So that adds up. All right, a little tad bit more, okay? This is also good stuff to get into. So we have this site. It's called Concilium Europa. What are the main elements of the revised regulation in regards to like digital IDs? Look at this for a second, guys. This is good stuff. It says that basically by 2026, each member state must make a digital identity wallet available to citizens and accept EDIWS from other member states according to the revised regulation. Sufficient safeguards. You have to, have a wallet business model, but there must be issuance, and you must have, for example, some of these things that I guess you could say run in the background. So what you will see here is really cool stuff, and it will take you right back to this, and that is, does it match up with what Quant mentioned? And it does. From the Quant network site, they talk specifically about how they are a member of British Standards Institution, and if anything, that they had attendees from several working groups, and how all this came together through standardization, and talks about that some of these key topics include vocabulary, terminology, security, privacy, and identity management, but through ISO, okay, and more particular ISO TC 307, like we see right here. As I got into the next part of this, also from Quant Network, talking more about digital identities, it says, in these new worlds, digital assets and blockchain technology will play an outsized role. Singular digital identities will be twined with real-world identities. We know about the whole thing about NFTs. But it goes on to mention, how do you balance it all out? Well, you balance it through verified credentials and the need for privacy. It says that there's a key to bringing vision to life is verifiable credentials, digital identities, and transactions that can be cryptographically checked and assured. Again, everything I talked about at the beginning of the outline. Gilbert Verdian of Quant says verifiable credentials ensure that the NFT you buy, whether it's digital artwork or financial instrument like a bond, is authentic and the seller is legitimate. This is where I feel as though Quant will really, really shine. The QNT token will really, really shine because of all the statements specifically about, like, even BlackRock. My God, I mean, I'm not rooting for them, but they have taken advantage of all the subprime bad things that happened in the past from the last recession, and they have capitalized on it. They bought all this darn real estate, for crying out loud. But if everything is going to be tokenized, okay, and we're having an instrument, like it says here, to see what's authentic and legitimate, and 99, or not 99%, but was it 95% of all NFTs are worthless, right? From the last report from NPR and other sources, that 95% of NFTs are worthless. What about the QRC 721, right? NFT standard, if you will. Think about that for a second, right? There's QRC, for example, it's QRC 20, but there's also QRC 721 in regards to NFTs. So that, to me, really will help see price action in the future when we get to the point of mass adoption. A little bit more about this whole thing about identities, and we'll get to the key aha moment for Brics as well, tying that in as well. Breakthroughs in DLTs related to key management and putting data on chain are inspiring. Different approaches. They may lead to new capabilities that could be shared, deployed by participants in the future, such as the ability to have all participants utilize a secure, immutable digital version of identity. Yeah, it literally says that, right? Getting into the next part of what we have, talks about this right here. Again, from the Quant Network side, if you're wondering where that's from. By empowering end-to-end visibility of trade, think about it, we could sell with XDC if we wanted to on the overledger. Digital twins, a unique blockchain-based token linked to real-world physical object or identity, could be optimized. Global supply chains to prevent the costly disruptions as experienced during, of course, the pandemic. Crucially, consumers, could be finally have the ability to have full control of their privacy and identity in the digital age, controlling exactly who can see their data and how they can use it. And this quote from Gilbert Verdin: "We've made all the mistakes of giving up our privacy by trusting companies to protect its security." Right. We give it away freely to GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. But he says to protect its security, but we have failed consumers and the market because the cybersecurity sector struggles to secure, of course, our data. Very, very true. All right, let me take you over to here. Here is some of the, getting towards the icing on the cake moments. Russia is definitely part of Brics. It's one of the key things that people point out when it comes to Brics. What's this say right here, you guys? ISO/TC307 meeting, Russia, Moscow, Russia. This happened all the way back October 22nd to the 26th, for crying out loud. Basically, 6 months, not even 6 months, I don't know, 4 or 5 months actually, after QNT basically tanked dramatically in price. I don't know if you guys remember that. Remember that whole thing of Fox News I talked about, where Fox News deleted that article and literally a month later, QNT went to all-time lows. I mean, we're talking rock bottom lows. So this is 2018. 4-day event happened in Moscow, Russia, and it says plain as day, ISO TC307, the Quant Network, QNT network, if you want to call it that, Quant Network standard. That is crucial. And again, I understand it's just a screenshot, but look at this. Shout out to Quant Papa for some of this. Look what it says. You had China top left. Great meetups appreciated from whoever that is. You have, for example, 22nd through the 25th, October 2018. You do have Brazil right there. Do you not? Yes, you do. And what's it say? I'll zoom in a little bit more. It says, for example, congrats, great meeting, so on and so forth, right? Then, of course, you see another Brics nation, India. People writing on this thing. About a fourth meeting, ISO TC307. So literally, it wasn't just Russia. You have pretty much all the Brics nations there, okay, for the most part. Interesting to see how all this a long time ago. You think any of these nations, you think any of these people who showed up, their representatives of these central banks, give two you-know-whats about a retail narrative about how this coin is going to do nothing? No, they understand the bigger picture. They are the smart money. Pay attention to that smart money. Always pay attention to that smart money, because you'll be glad that you did. Someday, generations down the road, maybe you'll have grandkids, and maybe you'll live old enough to be a great-grandfather, great-grandmother. They'll thank you. All right. Here's another icing on the cake moment. Look at this for yourself. Literally, look at this for yourself. This is why you wait to the end of the outline. Ledger Insights, back in October 16, 2023. This flew under the radar. Maybe some people cover it with XRP. I don't know. But Russia's Moscow exchange will list tokenized real estate in 2024. What did we talk about in regards to ISO TC307? What did we talk about in regards to the Brics nations and ISO TC307, the Quant Network standard? Think about it. As we go to this link, Ledger-Insights, to look more into it, guess what? It takes you over to here. This is interesting. Broken link. And I understand that links don't last necessarily forever, but I thought that was interesting. And you guys know me. I would have went on, way back time machine. And when I did, there was nothing, absolutely nothing, right? So it had been wiped. Why would that be? So with that said, thanks for sticking around to the end of this outline. Give me a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Follow me, of course, on X. I do post exclusive content over there, and I'll be looking to post more content here in a bit in regards to QNT and some other particular coins and tokens. So there you go. Brics update, QNT, ISO TC 307. Is there really something there? I think we know the answer in regards to that. Pay attention to the bigger picture. Follow the smart money if you haven't done so already. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.